As we continue on this discussion of God who changeth not, I saw a lengthy interview on CNN with the Hillsong pastor, Carl Lentz, who did a good job. Him and his wife did a good job on so many levels, but when it came to that section of the interview on homosexuality, it was so disappointing and really was off. And I want to use that backdrop, giving them their respect that's due them on the areas where they have tried to reach out to young people and evangelize people and bring them to Christ. They really fell down on this one, and I'll explain why. So go ahead and play the tape.
Some of his positions are clearer than others. Don't get drunk, no sex before marriage.
Are gay men and women welcome in the church?
Absolutely. We have a lot of gay men and women in our church, and I pray we always do.
It's not our place to tell anyone how they should live. That's their journey.
Every article I've read about you guys says he declined to discuss gay marriage.
Yeah, it's a misquote because I do discuss it, just not the way people want me to. When it comes to homosexuality, I refuse to let another human being or a media moment dictate how we approach it. Jesus was in the thick of an era where homosexuality, just like it is today, was wildly prevalent. And I'm still waiting for someone to show me the quote where Jesus addressed it on the record in front of people. You won't find it because he never did.
So as we can say, or see, the commentator says, hey, they got it right. No sex before marriage. That's right. Don't get drunk. Got it. These are clear biblical commands. But then when it comes to homosexuality, which would include sex outside of marriage, he refuses to take a stand with the camera rolling. There's so many things he could have said that would have been redemptive, that would have been encouraging. But instead, he equivocated, and he made a statement at the end, I hope you caught that is one of the great heresies of so many of the modern day denominations, and it's called antinomianism. It's a heresy, antinomianism, where basically it's that if it's not in the gospel, if it's not in the red letters, if Jesus doesn't say it himself, well, then it's not for today. Or if it's not in the New Testament, it's not for today. Antinomianism, against the law. So there's this movement in some modern day denominations to throw out the Old Testament and to say that has nothing to do with us. Well, what he failed to mention was Romans chapter 1 has some very fierce and severe things to say against homosexual acts and condemns it outright and says that people who do these things are deserving of the judgment of God. All right, that's in the New Testament, and it's written by the Apostle Paul. So for him to say, well, there's no record of Jesus saying anything, to that, the simple answer is, so what? There's a lot of things that Jesus didn't talk about. Jesus, for example, did not talk about child sacrifice. Okay? He didn't talk about idolatry, bowing down to Baal. Now, perhaps one of the reasons Jesus didn't address those three things is because the Babylonian captivity had obliterated child sacrifice, had obliterated idol worship in Jerusalem and in Judea. And at the time of the Babylonian captivity, there were homosexual prostitution booths connected to Solomon's temple. And when the temple was destroyed, that hideous sexual behavior was obliterated. So when he made the statement that it was, prevalent everywhere, it wasn't prevalent in Judea at that time, any more than child sacrifice or idolatry was. Now, it might have been happening in some of the pagan nations that were not where Christ was ministering. But what you have to understand is that Christ was present in the Holy Trinity, okay? The Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God, three persons, coexisting eternally for all time, right? Begotten, not made. All the different creeds, all the different theologies that we have that explain that Jesus was fully God and fully man, all right? Jesus was present in the command to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. That's a reflection of who Christ is. God was not some grumpy old deity who really was kind of had a mean streak on him, and then he had a baby, and then he just became a nice old guy because he had his son. God didn't go through that kind of transformation. And Jesus does not suddenly appear in time, whereas the Son of God, eternally coexisting with the Father, that he wasn't there before, and Jesus would never have done that with Sodom and Gomorrah. No, God did it. God is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so his argument is a false one. And it's based upon a bad understanding of the person of Christ and antinomianism, which is a heresy. And sadly, his wife, Mrs. Lent, said, it's not our job to tell people what to do or how to live. That's the part of their journey. Excuse me. If you are a pastor, if you are a teacher, if you are a spiritual leader, you better believe it's your job to tell people. That's part of what being a shepherd is, instructing the flock. I mean, the CNN lady knew that they tell people, don't get drunk. Don't have sex outside of marriage. You're telling them what to do or to not do. So you can't have it both ways. And it is a part of our calling as Christian leaders, as parents, as teachers, and for those who are in the ministry as ordained ministers or as ordained priests and bishops, etc. It's part of the duty of the Christian leader and the Christian pastor, shepherd, to instruct the sheep on what to do, on what not to do. It grieves me. Meanwhile, there's pastors being persecuted in Houston for standing up the lesbian mayor there. We'll bring you up to speed on that when we come back.